Hi, I'm just coming up to 10 weeks since I started hyperbaric oxygen therapy for the Lyme disease and co-infections. Thought now would be a really good time to stop and give a quick update because an awful lot has happened in the last 3 weeks. So I think I'm at about 125 hours of hyperbaric therapy. So I've had a good fair watch of it. It has made a massive difference. Inflammation is way lower, mast cell reactions way lower. Cognitively, I am much better, but it has lifted the Lyme out of its hiding places. So I've had some really pretty full-on Herxing sessions. I've been at really high fevers, really poorly. Actually had a couple of nights where I was so poorly. I couldn't move my neck. The headaches were horrendous. The fever was so high. I was drenched in sweat, and we had a few hours wondering if I needed to actually go to the hospital because I basically had all the symptoms of Lyme meningitis and I was incredibly unwell. All shows that the hyperbaric's doing what it does, but kind of learnt the lesson that sometimes you need to perhaps just put a bit of a handbrake on and not push that hard. I then had an appointment with my infectious diseases consultant, which was really interesting timing. And he kind of confirmed really that the hyperbaric chamber is really showing just how much infection is left. There's just a lot of persistent infection left. And that's worrying because I'm 18 months into treatment. I've had a lot of antibiotic treatment, a lot of other therapy, and there is still a lot of infection. And he felt whilst the hyperbaric chamber is a really important part of this treatment puzzle, and it is doing amazing things. I mean, I've got way less inflammation. I'm feeling a lot better. It's not enough on its own or even with the treatment that I was on. So he's actually changed my treatment. He's changed the antibiotics onto a pulse, and he's changed one of the antibiotics I'm on to try and mix things up. But he's also started me on methylene blue. Now, I had very mixed feelings about that. Methylene blue is kind of a bit trendy in chronic illness circles. You know, you can buy low grade stuff on Amazon and it's all like, stick 5 drops on your tongue and it'll cure everything kind of thing. Is sometimes how it feels in the socials. That's not the way I'm going to be using it. Actually, what I've learned about it has been really interesting. For example, to use methylene blue safely, you need to have a blood test to make sure that you don't have a certain genetic disorder, which can cause, if you take the methylene blue, can cause your red blood cells to break down. I mean, it's really quite serious stuff. It also contraindicates a lot of medication. So I've had to make the really tough decision to lay down 4 other medications, 4 that I really have been depending on in order to take this treatment. And methylene blue, essentially, if you look it up, it's essentially a poison. If you take too much of it, it's not good. It is essentially poisonous, and you have to get hold of the pharmaceutical grade stuff. A lot of the stuff that's being sold is low purity. It's got a lot of heavy metals in it. And I'm going to be taking it at a much higher dose, obviously, because I'm under a doctor, than a lot of the social media kind of drop 5 drops on your tongue stuff. I mean, I'm doing, good solid dose twice a day of it. And this has really affected and is really going to affect this HBOT journey. Because when I started reading around it, because I always like to understand what I'm taking, and I was quite nervous about the fact that, this essentially is essentially a poison. It does have a lot of amazing benefits, and I am already, even on half a dose, starting to feel those. I mean, it's antioxidant, it's antidepressant, it's anti-malarial, which is great for defeating the babesiosis. It's antimicrobial, obviously, because it's there to kill the Lyme, but it's also neuroprotective, cardioprotective. It increases your cellular ATP and it helps with memory. And it's been really interesting because I was very afraid to take it, and it has not been brilliant on my tummy. I'll spare you the details on that. But I am feeling cognitively much sharper, and I'm feeling much brighter on it, which is fascinating. But where it kind of collides a bit with the HBOT is it actually synergizes with HBOT. So it kind of supercharges HBOT, and HBOT kind of supercharges methylene blue. So I've actually had to step down a little bit on the HBOT because I don't want to herx myself into a total crisis. So starting this, I've had to make the decision to really step down. So rather than doing 3 hours a day, in fact, on my first half dose of the methylene blue, I only did an hour. and I'm just doing an hour and a half, and I'll just see how it goes because I don't want to make myself sick. The other thing that's interesting with the methylene blue is it also has this kind of bizarre antioxidant pairing with molecular hydrogen, which is the other therapy I have. So basically it supercharges the molecular hydrogen, and the molecular hydrogen supercharges the methylene blue. Now is interesting, it's really interesting, but I've now got to manage how much HBOT to do and how much molecular hydrogen and how to time those, so that I don't push myself into some kind of extreme mega herx and make myself incredibly unwell. The first time I did the HBOT after the methylene blue, I had like this kind of tingling all the way through my body, which I haven't experienced since the first HBOT. So that just shows how much more oxidization was going on in my body. But yeah, so it's going to be an interesting ride putting this methylene blue in. I'm not even quite on half a dose of the methylene blue. I started very slowly because of the mast cell stuff, the risk of allergy, and I find it actually an incredibly scary medication, if I'm honest. So I've started slowly and I've cranked back the HBOT. But it's interesting. I'm on day 3 or 4 of the methylene blue, and I'm feeling much sharper and I'm feeling much better on it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens as I crank it up to this full medicinal dose, which is a very high dose compared to what you see on social media. It's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens. I'm just hoping it's gentle and doesn't kind of push me into a complete herxing frenzy. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at now. HBOT is still doing amazing things. I'm thankful to it for exposing this persistent Lyme, making it clear to my consultant that we needed to go on to kind of second level treatment. So I will keep you posted as this goes on. Any questions, chuck them in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. I may well not be able to, but the offer's there. All right, take care.